we're really on a mission to empower anyone to create scalable, world-class software. Prakash and I talk a lot about the mission of no code plus. When people think of no code, they often think of prototyping. They think of things that can't scale. They think of things that aren't secure. And Xano's mission is to change that. And in fact, we have for many organizations and many app builders, and we're so excited to do that for the Adalo community. We were established, by 3 co-founders who have all got deep expertise in building, high-scale products in complex environments. You can think of this as bringing, the power of a scalable backend to your app. So I'll dive in and begin to kind of break this down brick by brick. For those of you that have been using Adalo today, Adalo has been both your front end, where people use your app, and your backend, where you store your data, maybe where you interact with some APIs, and of course the server that when people type in the name or load up your app, the internet takes them to actually use what you create. With this partnership between Adalo and Xano, Xano can now be your backend, and Adalo can be your front end. Now you can still use Adalo functionality alongside of Xano, but there's some really interesting things you get to do once you add Xano to the equation. If you've never thought about this structure before of a front end and a back end, it can be helpful to think about an API, because this is really where the bulk of the work you're going to be doing is going to live. So, for a customer coming into a restaurant, for example, your front of house experience, that's your front end, what it's going to be like. And then the waiter that comes up and says, hey, what's your order? That's the API looking to get information from what the customer wants to do. And then taking that back to the kitchen, that's where your server, your database, all your information is stored, and running it back and forth between the two of them. So that's a pretty reliable analogy. And we've got some great talks about what APIs are on our YouTube channel, which I'll be sharing with you later if you want to learn more about this. But what I love about Xano is that Xano is not only a database tool like Airtable, but it also has the ability for you to build your own APIs. So just to put this a little bit more in technical terms, when you think about a server, we're talking about scalable architecture, single tenant, meaning your data is living on your instance, and you have the ability of actually putting that server where you want to around the globe. So this is really powerful for both performance and for compliance and security in some cases. In terms of the database itself, it's scalable, what we say horizontally and vertically, meaning you can scale both how much you're storing in the database and how quickly it responds because of the power that it has. For those of you that are familiar a little bit with backends, it's around PostgreSQL. But really, I think, at least for me, the thing that blew my mind was when I realized I could build my own APIs with Xano. So the no-code builder we have is amazing. If you've used Zapier and ever wished, why can't I just change what this one API is doing in talking to another? I wish I could just get it to behave a little differently. You can do that with Xano. So we've seen customers launch, amazing things with Xano. Over here, you've got Qualtrics has been using it to, run data reporting and build, sort of some fabric between their different applications that allows them to bring in data from a lot of places, run calculations on it, and ship it back out. We've seen people come in with Xano, take their no-code app, pull out everything that they had, put it into Xano and scale it, and they found that that was worth it to them. So we know that for some of you, that is going to be the case, and we're going to be sharing some resources that you can use to help make that easy, or at least easier. And we have also seen traditional developers, full stack developers, come onto Xano and build scalable apps, and actually found that it made it easier for them to do so. So, this is really puts the breadth of our aspirations out there. We want to make it something that you can use if you're building internal products, if you're building apps for others, or if you're a full stack developer who wants to get in on this no code thing and see what you can do. So the important thing that we want to provide some context around is, when would it make sense for you to take the journey from just building in Adalo to using a separate no-code backend like Xano? And the important thing to share here is, it's not always the best solution. Sometimes it does make sense for you to build whatever you're doing just in Adalo. But these are some examples of things that you can think about that Xano can do for you. And Patrick, who's going to be following me in a few minutes, is actually going to be providing some tangible examples of this. So one of the things that we recognized in working together, Patrick and I, was that running bulk actions is something you can do with Xano. And we've seen a number of use cases in Adalo where that could be quite useful. So here you can see I've got, a set of rows: bread, lettuce, tomato, bacon, and bread. And I want to go through and I want to find the ones that are bread. Maybe I want to change it from bread to a specific type of bread. And with Xano, you can do this kind of iteration in a single API call. So rather than having to do it every time or create a serial of actions, you can actually do it in a single action. The other thing that we've seen people use Xano for, especially because it's both powerful and fast, is advanced querying. So for example, if you have an app where you want to enable your users to search for everyone in a specific area who made a purchase of a specific kind, Xano can help you search all of that data pretty easily in setting up your own API call. And you can extend that with our new fuzzy search, which just came out about this past year, which enables you to search all of that information, not only with the exact information, but with something called fuzzy search, meaning your users could put in a few words that they might know, and it will pull all the possible relevant information. So there's some real muscle that you can add to your apps with Xano, both in terms of speed and in functionality as you go. The other thing that we see many people beginning to rely on Xano for, and I'm particularly excited about, is that Xano can become your connector for all of the different ways that you might be bringing data in to your app, and also allow you to create multiple front ends, whether that's multiple Adalo apps or other types of apps that you might be building to interact with your data. So this allows you to get to a really full solution when you're building SaaS applications, for example. You can also interact with external APIs in a number of ways. Of course, this is one of our favorite analogies. You can hit up the Star Wars fan database and pull that data in. This is going to be something we're going to be showing you more in the coming week. But working with external APIs in Xano does a couple of things for many no-coders that are quite powerful. Number one, it can move you off of Zaps, which can get quite expensive if you're scaling with those, or a platform like Make or N8N. It can help you bring all of that data into one place. But the other is that you can actually build your own API calls that can pull data from multiple sources at the same time. So for example, if you want to build an app where someone can go to a page and look at their information, but that information is actually being sourced from a number of different tools or data sets, Xano can enable you to do that with a single call, which is really efficient and, again, helps with that performance piece. So another example that you can use here is aggregating that data. So you can actually run calculations on that data. So, one of our favorite examples is being able to go across 1 million transactions and produce quarterly revenue reports or average customer spend, or find out who your most frequent customers are. And we have caching with a tool called Redis that allows you to make those results come through very quickly, especially with repeated requests. So aggregation of data is another thing that you can use Xano for with Adalo now. All of this is built on on Google Cloud with nodes in Docker and Kubernetes. This is designed to scale. So when you think about how you can scale this, of course, cost is a factor. The more you scale, the more your server costs will go up. But we give you lots of tools to manage that, lots of advice on how you can design for optimal performance. But ultimately, the sky is the limit with Xano in terms of your ability to scale on the architecture as you grow. So I'll wrap up with just two things. We've just rolled out multiplayer mode with Xano, meaning multiple people can actually build in it together. So if you're building apps as a team, having Adalo and Xano be able to talk to each other is great, because you can have people working on the front end and the back end at the same time. And you have the ability to get started today. If you're building a brand new app, you can go to xano.com/connect/Adalo. We've got a video there for you. If you're on Adalo already and you're looking to move that data out, we're going to be releasing some videos on our YouTube channel. So be sure to check it out, youtube.com/ no code backend and subscribe there. We're going to be walking you through several ways you can pull that data out, put it into Xano, and keep going strong. And if you're a Xano fan and maybe coming to check out Adalo for the first time, definitely go check out Getting Started with Adalo. I just got started myself with the latest and greatest version of Adalo, which is really fun. It's really fast. And Patrick will show you how you can get set up in connecting your Xano app to Adalo in just a few minutes. So with that, thank you so much, guys. We're so excited that you're here. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, follow Xano on Twitter as well, and check us out on our community. We're really responsive. You know, if you have questions, if you have ideas, if you just want to know what's possible, feel free to post there and we'll engage with you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Patrick.
All right, thanks, Brian. You'll have to bear with me. I've got a little bit of a cold currently. But aside from that, I just wanted to kind of walk you through. We'll come back and look at actually this at this demo task app in just a minute. But I wanted to kind of go over just how easy it is to connect your Adalo app with the Xano backend. So I've got two tabs open here. I've got my Adalo editor open. I've got Xano, my Xano instance open. I've already created an account and all that sort of stuff. But I'm going to just click into my instance here, and I'm going to create a new workspace. And you can think of a workspace like a collection of databases and API endpoints and things like that. We'll call this webinar demo. I'm going to choose Adalo as my front end. I'm starting fresh with Xano here. And let's say I want to make an app for recipes like Brian was talking about. I may have something called recipes. I may have something called ingredients. All right. And we could probably think of some other things here, but I think recipes and ingredients are good. I'm going to choose to include this CRUD action here. And I'll go ahead and skip adding these, but you can add extra kind of add-ons here that kind of bootstrap these services for you. So if you're using Twilio or SendGrid to send SMS or emails, those endpoints are already built out for you. You don't have to go through the process of building those. I'm going to choose user as the table that I'm using for my users and email authentication. We'll review this and create the workspace here. And let me just dismiss the little tutorial here. I'm going to go into my database here, and you can see that I've got 3 tables here, one for user, recipes, and ingredients. And I can certainly go in here and click into these databases, very similar to, spreadsheet interface that you might see. You can add lots of different properties here. I'm going to add, maybe for this recipe, it has a name for the recipe. And maybe we could probably think of some other things here, but just for the sake of time, let's go into ingredients. And ingredients may have a name as well. And just for simplicity, maybe it has an amount of that ingredient. And maybe it has a table reference, what Adalo calls relationships, to what recipe that ingredient belongs to. So we can really quickly create these relationships like we would in Adalo. But what does it look like to connect this? So if I go back to my Adalo app, I'm just going to go in here and create a new app, and we'll call this, let's see, well, we'll give it a name in a second. But let's go to advanced options here. And you can see that we've got a new option here for use Xano database and authentication. So I'll click on that. Let's call this webinar recipes. All right, I'll click begin here. And all I need to do to connect this is back in my Xano instance here, I can click on API. I'm going to choose this default API group endpoint. And these are all of the endpoints that Adalo is going to use to interact with the Xano backend. And you can certainly customize these, as we'll see in just a second. You can create new ones, you can delete them, move them around, add extra endpoints inside of these endpoints if you want to. There's tons of different things that you can do. I'm not an expert in Xano myself, but just from playing around with it, I can tell you that there's an infinite number of ways to do anything that you would like to do, which is a good thing. So we've got our endpoints for our auth, our ingredients, recipes, all that sort of stuff. But the main thing that I need up here is this group base URL. So I'm just going to copy this. And we will plug this in right here. And I'll click Run Test. It'll pull in the authentication endpoints that we need to get our logged in user data that we have in Adalo and the user's data itself, right? So all the properties that are associated with the user. I'll click Next. And then it gives me an option to actually import the collections that or the tables from Xano that I want to import into this app. And I can always change this later. This is not set in stone. I don't have to do this right away if I don't want to, and I can always go back and change these. But I'm just going to go ahead and import both of these and click Finish. And you can see that that's pretty much all we have to do to connect Xano and Adalo together. It's super powerful and simple. We've got, you can see right here on the home screen, if I want to display information about the logged in user, it's right here in magic text, right? So just like we would normally in a regular Adalo app, we've got the logged in user's name, email, and password, along with an ID. And if we go to the users collection over here in our database, you can see that those are the exact fields that we have here in Xano, all right? And this works for all different sorts of tables that you have set up in Xano, the same way that you have it set up in Adalo. So real quickly, let me just skip over here to our Xano task app demo here, and I'll go back to our other workspace here. Let's look at our database for the to-do app. So I've got 4 tables here, one for users, tasks, notifications, and lists. And just like Brian said, there's several different new use cases. Obviously, there's many, many more, depending on your app. I don't want you to pigeonhole your thinking into, oh, you can only make tasks apps with it, right? Think of, if you're building a project app or a trips app or an Airbnb clone or something that has social posting or whatever. Take that and kind of apply it to this context, I think is really helpful as well. And there's so many different use cases that this opens up. And the first couple of things that it opens up is, like you said, bulk creation, updating, and deleting of records. So we'll look at that in just a second. We'll also look at scheduling notifications, delayed notifications. And then we'll also look at some for loops and some debugging and some different things like that. So let me just go ahead and preview this and we can kind of see what this looks like here. I'll go ahead and create a new user. We're going to be Mary Test. Mary at test.com. Go ahead and sign up here. And you can see I've got nothing here yet, but I can go ahead and create a list. And maybe she has a weekend to do. We can upload a list photo here. Just got a random photo. Cutting the grass. Okay, so we've got a weekend to do. Let's go ahead and click in here. We'll add some tasks. I don't have an empty state on this list, but we could certainly add one if we wanted to. The only thing that's required here is just a task name. So we'll give it a task name. Why not cut grass, of course, with the mower, not with scissors. We can give it a due date and time if we wanted to. And this checkbox, we can even make it so that it will create a notification if the user wants to be notified when that task comes due. So let's just choose a due date. Let's say Saturday is a good grass cutting day. Yeah, and we're gonna get an early start, 6:24 a.m. Sounds good. So we'll click Notify Me When Due here. Let's click Create, and you can see that we've got our task there with the details. We can mark it off as completed if we want to, but let's go back over into Xano and see just exactly what happens in the back end here. So if I click on list, you can see that we've got our new list here, weekend to do, There's the photo URL that we uploaded. It's just using a text field to reference that URL. And then we've even got the relationship to the user through a table reference field, so that we can know who this list belongs to, right? So if I go back, let's go over to our tasks collection. You can see that we've got our task there, cut grass with the mower. This is when it's due. It's not been completed yet. It belongs to this list, the weekend to do list, and then it's got the ID there kind of beside it as a table reference. And then we've got just a Boolean true false field here for notify when it's due. And because they checked that, let's go to our notifications table, and we can see that a notification was actually created, and it has not been sent yet. And we'll look at what that looks like in just a second. We'll look at some API endpoints to kind of see what that looks like. All right. So we can see that it's doing lots of different things here on the back end that the user doesn't see, but Xano is just kind of taking care of this for us, which is nice. Okay. So let me actually go in here and add a couple more. Let's add some more tasks here. What's another weekend task? Maybe take out the trash. We'll leave the task details empty this time. We'll give it a different due date here. That looks good. I don't want to be notified about that one, although I do usually forget to take out the trash, so that's probably something I need to do. I'm usually the person that's like running down our driveway like as soon as the trash truck's pulling up. Let's go ahead and add one more here. We'll say run to the store, right? Milk, eggs, and bread. We're going to spend a fortune on these things these days, but Wednesday, let's see, that's fine. Let's go ahead and create it. Okay, so we've got 3 tasks here. And the other thing that's cool about this that you can do is you can replicate all the same stuff that you do in Adalo with Xano. So in this case, you can see that it's even counting the number of tasks that belong to this list. So all of the same functionality that you have in Adalo, you still have in Xano, plus all this extra stuff that you can do with Xano that you can't necessarily do natively or can't do it easily in Adalo. So let's go back before I show kind of the bulk add and delete. Let's look at some API endpoints here. So if I click on API in Xano and click on this default API group that was created when I made my workspace, you can see I've got my auth endpoints that Adalo is using to log the user in and sign them up. I've got a delete list endpoint, which we'll look at in a second. I've got the endpoints that I need to create lists and to query all of the lists. I've got notification endpoints and tasks where I can delete all tasks that belong to a list, and even just delete a single task if I want to as well. And of course, I've got my users collection here, right? I guess firstly, let's look at the notifications API. So this is a really interesting use case. Whenever a notification is created, and me and Brian we were kind of having fun yesterday playing around with this and exploring different ways to do it. But there's a couple of different things here, right? Where we can say, take all of the endpoints from that and, basically create a record in the notifications endpoint and just kind of plug in all of these values that are being input for that notification. So that's a basic kind of post endpoint there. And then we've got this one right here, this list endpoint that I made that makes use of Xano's for each function. So on each one, and if you've used something like Zapier, this kind of setup is going to look very familiar to you, right? So you've got it takes an input, something happens to it, and then it returns something, right? And that's kind of what's happening here. So this endpoint is taking the list ID that we want to delete, of the list that we want to delete. It's getting all of the tasks associated with that list. And then for each of those tasks, it's actually deleting that task that belongs to that list. And then after it gets done with that, it deletes the list itself. So if you ever worked in Adalo, you know that this is not currently possible, right? You could delete a list and not see it, but all the tasks that are associated with that list would still exist, right? And there were some workarounds that you can do with that. But this is something that's really powerful in that helps keep your database clean, helps reduce clutter and broken relationships and things like that. So this is this bulk creating, updating, deleting of records is something that's really powerful in terms of using this with Adalo. Okay, so that's the first thing, the first kind of thing, and we can see what that looks like in just a second on the Adalo side. But let's look at the tasks. The task one, this is kind of similar. It's just not deleting the list. It's just not deleting the list. So this one makes use of the same kind of thing here. We've got a for each loop for each task that's in a list, right? We're taking the list ID here for each of the tasks in that list, just delete it, right? And it's not deleting the list afterward. So let's actually look at what that looks like here. So I'm going to go to weekend to do and go up to this delete button here. And let's just say I want to delete just the tasks. So I'll click tasks only. You can see that all the tasks are gone and it updates my count there, but the list is still there, which is nice. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to clear the list so that I could, create a new list for next weekend. And even that could be automated in Xano if you wanted it to be. So let me just click on this. We'll just delete the list altogether. If it has any tasks, it's going to delete them, and then it's going to delete the list as well so that we can start over, right? So these are some really powerful things that seem simple on the front end, but previously not been able to do super efficiently on just using Adalo as the front end, and Xano kind of affords this for us to be able to do this. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you is just the scheduled notifications piece. And for that, we can go into this tasks section. And this is something that I won't be able to actually show you I don't have an app sent to the App Store or a build created yet for this app. But we can kind of show you what this looks like. A task is simply what, most developers would call a cron job, in the sense that it runs on a certain schedule, right? It's a recurring thing that happens every minute, every hour, every week, every month, every year, whatever the frequency is that you set up for that task, that's how often it'll run. So in this case, what we're doing is we're saying, what I want to do is I want to say, okay, if there's a notification that needs to be sent out within this minute, I want it to check every single minute, right? And see if there's a notification that can be sent. If there's a notification within this minute, great. I want you to get it and I want you to send it to the user. No matter how many there are, no matter who it needs to go to, I need to get those notifications and send them to the users. So what we're doing is we're creating a variable with a timestamp of now and setting that as a variable called min. And then we're creating another one called max and setting it to now. And what I want to do is I want to say, okay, if there's a notification that was 60,000 milliseconds prior that has not been sent, or if there's one that is 60,000 milliseconds after now that has not been sent. So we've got like a 120 millisecond time frame here that I want to check to see if there are any milliseconds or any notifications that have not been sent. And what we're going to do after we've created these variables, we're going to say, okay, great. I want you to query all of the notifications, but we've added some filters here to say, okay, only get the ones where notifications sent is not true, right? And we could certainly say if it's false, right? But I want you to get the ones that haven't been sent yet. I want you to get the ones where the send date is after the minimum, but before the max, right? So I don't want to send notifications that happen 5 minutes from now. I want to send only the notifications that happen in this time frame, in this minute, right? So we're querying those specific notifications. instead of, having to get all of them at once. And then for each of those notifications that are returned, I want it to, there's some optional things that you can do here. You can do a stop and debug. And if Brian wants to chime in a little bit about that, after I get done explaining this stack, he can explain more about what that does and what you can do with that. But essentially on each notification, what I want to do is call the Adalo notifications API that Adalo provides. And so we're sending all the information about the app ID that we're using. This is our to-do list app. We've got the user's email, and we're using dot notation here to tell Adalo, hey, this is the user's email that I want to do, and it's coming from the item that we got from this query right here. And then we're sending the notifications title, the notifications body. We're referencing all of that from this query here. All right. So for each of those, make the API request. And then after you do that, I want you to then update it to say, all right, we sent the notification, right? So that it doesn't get sent again within the same minute. And just so that we have a record that it was sent successfully. And then this is kind of optional here. We could have returned a value. In this case, it's just returning, hey, it was successful, right? The workflow was successful. And then the final piece of tasks is just defining how often do you want this to run, right? I want it to start on February 10th. I want it to repeat, and I want it to do this every single minute, right? And it's never going to end. And this task will run until you turn it off. And this is something that, has been traditionally complex and very expensive to build, especially if you're using something like Zapier and you're iterating through, hundreds or thousands of records. But with Xano, this is a lot easier to bootstrap and to even copy. You can even clone these steps and replicate them across your API endpoints if you wanted to. So that's just a little demo of kind of the power of Xano and Adalo together, and what you can do with them that you couldn't previously do just with Adalo or just with Xano. Together, they make a really awesome back-end, front-end combination that you can really build some robust apps with.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Solid. It's always great doing a little live demo. Pulled it off that hitch there, a little stalling with the mowing and your yard work and chores, but overall solid work. Okay, quick. I think we got some. I know there's been quite a ton of Q&A that's been going on, and we've been answering those kind of behind the scenes. I know. I'm pretty sure Brian and Patrick, you all have some questions you're going to answer live for us. Is that correct?
Yeah. So one question that came up is, do they have the ability to use both the Xano integration and Adalo collections, or only just one?
I can jump in on that. So were you going to answer that, Patrick?
No, you're good. Go for it.
Okay. I just want to make sure. So you can use our external collections feature. And what that means is that you can use Xano external collections. This is available on most of our paid plans. So you can use Xano external collections and Adalo users and Adalo collections. If you want specifically the new integration that we've built to use Xano to hold your users collection, that is exclusive. You use Xano in that case as your full backend. If you were using our new integration to use Xano specifically as your users database, then you're going to want to store all of your data inside of Xano. But you can still do what you've always been able to do, and that is connect both our users collection, our collections, and some external collections inside of Xano and any other platform that you like.
Great. Another open question that we have is around button actions. So I think this one has just been answered, so it's just moved. But let me find this one here.
while you're looking for that, I'm going to jump in on a couple of more that I saw. I saw a lot of people asking, how can I learn? They want to learn Adalo. They want to learn Xano. Both websites have great learning resources, adalo.com/learn. I think it's xano.com/connect. Both platforms have great YouTubes as well with lots of learning resources. So whether you want to learn one or both, hit up both websites and you're going to find lots of learning resources there. Did you find that button question?
I did. We did have one participant mention, Xano is very easy. Adalo is very easy to learn. Xano has got a bit of a steeper learning curve. We do know that. We want everyone to be aware that we think a lot about this. Learning how a backend works, learning to build your own API does take some time. So we've got an amazing YouTube channel to get you started. We're very responsive on support. Please feel free to hit that, support icon if you get stuck. And of course, the community is a wonderful place to go to for support as well. The button question was, so the front end Adalo components, are they updated in real time with backend actions? For example, if I set a visibility condition for a button in Adalo, depending on backend data, is it updated in real time? Or should we refresh the app page?
Yes. So we will do this very, very quickly. Yes. So the answer there is yes. And I will show you with this task button here. So let me just create a task. Let me just check this as complete, and you can see that it's there in real time. And you can see this. I'm not actually using a toggle component. I'm actually using, in this case, two icons here for visibility. I like the customizability, the customization of using two icons, but you can see that it updated immediately. It was very fast to update the visibility on that. So the answer is yes on that one for sure. And then I know another question that people are asking is, can you, and Josh touched on this a little bit, is, what's the best process for if we wanted to transition from an Adalo backend to a Xano backend? And this is a little bit more of a complex issue. It is possible. There's several different ways to do it. You can make use of something like Zapier or Make and set up some workflows to copy data from your Adalo backend to the front end. You can export as a CSV from a Adalo database and upload into Xano if you want to. And then the other thing that you can do is you can actually build some API endpoints in Xano to reach out to the Adalo external collections API and pull that data in through the Adalo collections API. And in terms of switching over users, I'm sure others have different perspectives on how they would do this, but I would probably create a button in my app that's maybe hidden or something that all the users click, that when they log into the existing app, it creates their new account in Xano at the same time that they're logging in, or something similar to that. But again, the nice thing about Xano is that you can build it probably 50 different ways. There's a ton of different solutions there for that, in terms of like transitioning from one to the other. So was there another question, Brian, that
those are the main ones that I saw that, I thought were important for us to cover. And I know we're just about 15 minutes to the end here. So what I will say is everything Patrick just shared, we're going to put together a video this week, and we're going to post it to the Xano YouTube channel for each of these options, including different ways that you can handle migrating users specifically, because keeping that user ID working across your whole app, of course, is going to be important in a migration process. What I will say in terms of just, overall, some of the questions that people are asking is, what Patrick and I have seen, building in this is that if you take a little time to get to know the Xano user interface and the ways that you can customize the APIs that we create for you by default when you set up an Adalo Xano app, you're going to see pretty quickly that you get some new options. So I think, just to wrap up, Patrick, you mentioned the stop and debug. I would like to just show this to everyone, because this is a great tool that you can use as you're building. So I think, Patrick, you're still showing. If you just want to jump over to your Xano page there.
Yep.
Great. Yeah. So one of the cool things, if you scroll all the way to the top here, Patrick, is you can see we have this run and debug. So if you just press play on that, what this will allow you to do is click run, and it will actually run the process for you and give you the result as if you were communicating from the outside, but you actually get to do it inside Xano. So this is a really helpful way to be able to test your app as you're building it, test if your changes broke anything. And then that stop and debug loop right there, what you can see is what just happened is it went through creating the variables, subtracting and adding the numbers, querying the records, and then in that for each loop, it went through each record. And what you can see is this is the very first record that got pulled as an item. So stop and debug actually pulled all of the data right there as the function was running. So stop and debug, there's a great video on how to use it on our YouTube channel, but I would say run and debug and stop and debug are the two things I use the most as I'm figuring out how I want something to work on the Xano side. All right, David, back to you.
Sounds great. All right. Real quick, I did also see a few questions around our promotion. Just want to make sure people are aware of the kind of Xano Adalo bundle that we're offering for a limited time right now. So if you purchase an Adalo team or business plan, then you'll get Xano's what they call their launch plan. That is the first plan on Xano. Or if you, again, people are also asking, what if I want to scale up from there? They have scale 2, tons of other plans. You'll still get the equivalent credit as if you had that plan as well. So it works for you to scale upwards on there to kind of get that bundle and get started for that. Again, that's limited time right now that we're running with all of this launch stuff. So just some quick details. I saw some questions come in around that as well. All right. I'm going to kick it over to Josh, also our director of product. If you didn't know, here at Adalo, he's going to play a little moderator for myself and Prakash as we kind of answer some questions about no code, Adalo, Xano, this partnership, the future, all that kind of great stuff.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, David. Again, I'm Josh. I'm the director of product here. I'm going to just open it up. We're going to talk a little bit about Xano and Adalo specifically, but you're all no-code nerds just like us. And we know you want to hear what these guys think about no-code in general. What's been happening lately? What's the important stuff we should pay attention to? And what's going to happen in the future? How's stuff going to change? All right. So I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to talk about the partnership a little bit at first. Why this partnership? Why Xano? Why Adalo together? Why are we better together? Why was this partnership a no-brainer? I'm going to start off with David, and then Prakash, you can jump in after that.
Yeah, let's see. So there are a couple of reasons for me. So first is making a no-code platform is a lot of work. It's an app that makes other apps or limited other apps. So that is a very complicated thing in general. There are a lot of things that go into that, from an interface builder where you're dragging and dropping components and doing all kinds of things and unlimited features there. And there's a database we have to set up. And then there are actions where either you are having actions happen inside of your app, or also actions across other software that you might know, triggering emails, those types of things. It's a lot to handle. So being able to have now what we believe the easiest interface builder of Adalo, as well as being able to connect to something that's more powerful like Xano, so that they can focus, they focus only on the database and how powerful it can be. So that's certainly one of the reasons. And the second reason I think is the amount of people now that are in no code really varies in terms of your skill level that you might have, or the requirements that you might have for a specific app. So, you might be more technically savvy, or you have a more complicated use case that you want to solve. So again, not all apps need an Adalo Xano connection, but now we are able to unlock a ton more than what was possible before. So it's a little bit of, flexibility there is certainly kind of a common trend for me for the partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. I see Adalo and Xano both as parts of your no-code stack. If you're an engineer, you have a stack of things that you just all tie together to make your app, and no-code is exactly the same way. And I really think that we're better together. Prakash, how about you?
Yeah, I mean it's actually wonderful to see this come together. I mean, just outside of being able to provide this, when we really first got started, Adalo has always kind of been the gold standard for user-centered design and making it very easy to create accessible applications for the masses, right? Like when we look at all the no-code front-end tooling that's out there, Dalo has always made it very easy for people to just build and ship, which we've always really respected. And now just to see Patrick demoing how easy it is to put these two things together has been amazing. And just to echo what David has been saying, you know, building an app is hard. No code does not mean no complexity. And I think the front end piece of it and everything that Adalo solves for, there's so many different nuances and things that you need to think about that we let you do your part and what you do really well. And we will take care of the nuances around the back end. We're never going to do the front end. We just want to build the best back end possible. And for this reason, and for the respect that we have for Adalo, it was a no-brainer for us to do this partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm blown away by the power of Xano. When we were starting to look at this sort of partnership and what we could do, I looked at my roadmap and I was thinking, man, there are years worth of features that I would have to build to even do part of what Xano does. And I was so excited to just be able to build one Xano integration and now open up that power and complexity to all of our makers. It's fantastic what Xano can do. And we're so excited to have it as part of the core Adalo experience. All right, we're gonna have two questions about the past and future of no code. Let's start by looking at the past, bringing up to today. We'll start with Prakash on this one. What are the biggest changes and evolutions in the no code space that you've seen kind of in the last year? What is shifting? And then the next question, we'll talk about where things are going in the future.
Yeah, so I think just like there's an evolution in the sense that people just demand more out of no code in general. We see obviously the amount of, we refer to them as like, citizen developer types, but basically people that do not know how to program that need to build the software they need for themselves, right? And so the evolution that we're seeing is that we're just seeing a flood of people come to this space and really demand more out of the no-code tooling that's available to them. And I think that, founders like myself and David, really, it's our responsibility to respond to that and try to evolve our tooling to meet those demands. So, this kind of bleeds into a little bit of the future of no-code, but I'll let David start there, and then I definitely have thoughts around that as well.
Yeah, let's see. So definitely things I feel like are trending more and more sophisticated in terms of platforming of what you can actually do, and also starting to get a little more specialized or more specialized, right? We've touched on this before of, Xano is a backend builder. Like that's just a part of, one of the things, but that unlocks so much more. So things are definitely getting, more specialized. And in which case that means you have different tools for different situations. And you have to think about which ones you really need to use. Again, there are some apps, probably the majority of apps that are pretty simple, and you shouldn't have to use that many tools to create them. But then there are, more complicated use cases, or maybe there's just one part of something that you need to do, or maybe you actually really do have a very complicated app, or you're working for a large enterprise and they have a ton of different rules and sophistications and things like that you have to kind of account for. So I definitely think, an evolution in terms of, Josh alluded to it before, of like in engineering, you have a stack, no code now is starting to have different stacks for things you're using. Making sure that we all play well together is certainly, I think, a very important part of that evolution. Making sure we did a direct integration with Zapier earlier this year as well, making sure that plays nicely, direct integration with Xano. We're all trying to make sure that whatever use case you have, that you're able to kind of solve, what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it is amazing to see the explosion of tools in this space. I think if you work at a decent sized company, there's no question whether or not your company uses no code in some way. It's which no code tools does your company use, whether it's a form builder or an email tool or something like that. Odds are no code is at the heart of your company's process. And we couldn't be more excited to be on the forefront of that and pushing the industry forward there. So let's look ahead. Yeah. Where are we going? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess this is talking about looking ahead. One of the things that Brian mentioned up at the top, that I think we're kind of seeing is that the expectation around tooling is just so much greater. So in terms of how we move forward, we play with the term no code plus, because traditionally, if you think about it, a lot of people, when they talk about building serious things and things that can scale and are secure and compliant, no code has always been limiting. But we are basically part of this evolutionary cycle where founders like myself and David are saying, look, if our audience and our users are demanding more from us, we need to be able to support their needs. And in this no code plus world, it's a decoupled environment where, to David's point, we have our different specialties, right? People's data lives everywhere, and they're using these different tools. And just like in traditional development, where people are using different stacks, no code stacks are a very real thing. So us partnering with you make really a superpower for people that want to build scalable mobile applications and then some, right? So they're going to be able to do a lot more in the future of this no code world. And the last thing I'll say about that is, no code really is the word that we use today, but really I think with the amount of people that are using tools like Adalo and Xano to build, these are just going to be the tools that you use. You're not really going to build use syntax anymore or code anymore to build it, because you can do everything that you'd want in tools like ours. So we're just at the beginning, and we're it's amazing what we've been able to enable so far, and we're looking forward to the future, especially in 2023 of what's to come.
Yeah, that's super exciting. David, you have any thoughts about that?
You're talking about
the future, like where is it all going?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so a couple of trends that we're certainly seeing. I think Crash, you touched on this in terms of demanding more and more. I do think we are just kind of in our infancy, really, of the stages, and we're starting to push more and more into more use cases of life, and that also means more into businesses, medium, small, all the way up huge. You said Qualtrics, enterprise type of customers. So more into businesses is certainly starting to happen. Certainly then, as a part of that, another trend that we're seeing is more and more sophisticated freelancers and agencies start to really pop up to help out these businesses or startups, who have really complicated problems that they want solved. So I think that's another huge trend right now is, that's basically what happened with website building as well. They popped up in the early 2000s, with Squarespace and WordPress type of things, and then all of a sudden you started to have freelancers and agencies started building for businesses, and it started to spread more and more into just everyday parts of life, where now everyone's like, yeah, everyone has a website for everything. So I think that same trend is going to happen for what we at least call apps today. Maybe we just call them tools for life, for business. And that's everything from startups to workflows that happen in your organization. So that's definitely kind of, where it is. So yeah, if you are in a no code agency right now, or any of that kind of stuff, like, it is just an amazing kind of moment for you to be at the very beginning to kind of ride it. Like, we're just barely scratching the surface, I think, of what is going to happen on that, especially as tools like Xano and Adalo start to play better together, because then, you as an agency can pick and choose, okay, here's my client. What do I need for them for this specific project? Maybe, again, it's just only Adalo, or no, this one's really like, I need, Xano and Adalo for this one. Or maybe you need another tech stack outside of Adalo. I hope you don't, but that's also a reality, So how do you play, how do they all play well together? And that type of stuff is certainly part of, what I think the future holds for, this year.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely huge. We've been talking about products, right? The product explosion, but the services side is exploding. It's so great. I love the makerspace so much because it's always the same story. You start tinkering around with the tool, you get really good at it for yourself because you're a DIYer, and then you're like, I can do this for other people. And we've seen small teams and big teams kind of explode out of that. And there's this whole services industry that we are definitely partnering with very closely. To build great professional apps with both Adalo and Xano. So definitely check out our experts program, because we have a lot of great talented folks that can build out anything that's in your head. It's amazing how much talent they have. All right, so let's hit on buzzword of the day, AI. what's going on with AI and no code. You see that I think you can definitely see that there's a large overlap here about people excited about no code and AI, and you can't go 2 seconds without hearing Chat GPT. So Prakash, what do you think about it all? What place does AI have in the no code world?
Yeah. So first of all, I think just as long as, as platform builders, we want to obviously enable people to have access to all of the libraries that are coming out, whether it be Chat GPT and beyond, just because they can build really innovative things. So I think our responsibility is to kind of be educated on what's out there, and especially as a backend, just make sure all the API endpoints are as accessible as possible. In terms of our own use of AI, I think it comes down to the same things are generally being built over and over. There's of course like variations, but there's like two-sided marketplaces and like basically social apps, consumer feed apps. And so if people are trying to build something, they really shouldn't have to build from scratch. Like Patrick showed like how to do notifications. Like someone should just be able to be like, I want a notification, and everything, all of the logic should automatically be created for them because of the, tens of thousands of people that have come before them. So we think about that, like how can we leverage that and our data set around how people are building things to make it easier for the future.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I see AI has a lot of potential for this, like the next evolution of templates. Like templates are like static. They're useful to get started, but they're static and they're not customized. But AI has this ability to give you a starting point like a template, but that's exactly customized for your solution or your needs.
Exactly.
And I think that's pretty awesome. David, how about you?
Yeah, let's see. My general philosophy is certainly that AI is absolutely best at quickly, or more so like instantaneously, getting you like 80% of the way there in specific use cases. And then being able to put, I guess I'll say, the human touch on whatever that final 20% is. So looking for those types of use cases for how to incorporate that into Adalo is certainly something that we're very, very interested in. And what are the things that, you kind of alluded to, templates, those types of things, or, potentially that's not just an entire app, but a smaller portion of an app, a specific screen. I want a social media screen or whatever you want to kind of get. And then how can it spit that out at a much faster, get you 80% of the way there. And then you can kind of customize it, or quickly setting up your database and explaining and just typing what you want, and then it kind of creates it. So those types of opportunities are what we see as, one or some of the largest ways for us to kind of quickly, again, get 80% of those things instantly. And then you have the flexibility that we've built out with things like Adalo and Xano to then do the rest of your stuff. So how can it quickly get you, maybe you don't know about all the stuff that Patrick was showing off with those tasks and repeating, and it quickly can get you, that way really, really easily. And then, you're able to customize the rest with the flexibility that we have built into our platforms. I think will really kind of set that apart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to be an exciting evolution for our tools. But as Prakash said, it's also on just the API side. It's so cool to me that most of these tools, they're just an API that anyone can plug into. I don't have to be a machine learning expert to build an app in Adalo that uses machine learning. I just have to plug into an API, which Xano and Adalo can both do. And it's really exciting. We're already seeing some of our makers like launch apps that go viral in the App Store and get tons of downloads just because they do really cool stuff. And they don't have to be a machine learning expert to do that. And that's pretty exciting. The state of these tools is that all kinds of people get to play with them, whether you're a seasoned engineer or a brand new no coder just learning what an API is. There's a path out there for you to start to play with this stuff and do really cool stuff. All right, so the final thing, we've talked about it a little bit. David, I'll kick it over to you to talk about. I'm curious how you see no code changing the workplace, just every day from small to big businesses. What place does no code have in that world?
Yeah, I think today at every organization, whether actually it's in your workplace or maybe just an organization that you're a part of, there are workflows that exist today that go back and forth between, I guess we would call them, I don't know, Web 1.0, or just kind of like the traditional tools of the internet. So that's, email and spreadsheet, or just texting or WhatsApping or whatever it is. There's those back and forth kind of channels that happen in your organizations or in your workplace that at the end of the day, like that is what an app is taking some workflow that goes back and forth between multiple people with different roles over a period of time. Let's call them there's 20 different steps. What you're doing is creating a more personalized experience for that at the actual workplace. So we've built Adalo apps for Adalo. There's an Adalo expert management platform that's built on Adalo for Adalo, because we had a workflow where we were emailing back and forth with all of our experts. And it was kind of annoying. They'd update the website and all that kind of stuff. So being able to do those things and send them leads that come in and all that kind of stuff was created with, all of the tools. So, Adalo and Make and Zapier and Webflow, like all kind of combined. So there are tools for businesses that everyone will have. And I think that'll start to move more and more into that. So have you all, as the kind of foundation and the early adopters of no code, that will be, just like you have a tech stack of that, I think you'll have a resume that says like, well, what are the tools that you use? And it'll be just like, you would today for, I have tools for Microsoft Excel or whatever they are, on kind of your, what you're able to bring to an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I know some of the people that I've worked with in our own company that are just the most useful and valuable coworkers are people that can automate a bunch of stuff and tie all these tools together. I'm always tapping the shoulder of someone who's a professional at Zapier and getting things automated like that. So I've been very excited about how these things have changed my own personal workflows. How's it working over for you at Xano, Prakash?
Yeah, similar thinking. I think like when we look at the organization, whether it be small, mid-market, or enterprise, you always have a cohort of people that need to solve their own problems. And that can be a business process problem or like developing an app type problem. But it usually starts with business processes and making things more efficient, because previously they had to basically get a bunch of teams together, get allocation of developers, and then get it done. But if you look at, like, for example, the rise of a tool like Airtable and how much it's used in an organization now, basically businesses depend on that to basically run their entire organization and then some. So now we're seeing, well, there's more of an expectation around these toolings, just like we were talking about on the consumer end, in the enterprise or mid-market workspaces as well. These product managers, product marketing managers have the same needs and demands. And so I think that our job as no-code tooling is to rise up to the level and expectations around what they need. So whether that be compliance, whether that be scalability, those are the types of conversations that we need to basically jump, because the previous generation of no-code tools wasn't able to do that. But now, especially with couplings like Xano and Adalo together, we're able to basically take care of everything. And we have, for example, been brought into really big organizations. And even though we have the CIO and a bunch of lead developers that are poo-pooing no code, once they see what's possible, they're like, well, you know what, this isn't so bad. And we don't have to allocate resources. So you take care of it yourself. So I'm just excited to see more of that.
Yeah, I love that so much. No code has this special magic that empowers the people inside of an organization that don't typically get a team of engineers to work with them. And I love that about no code. I've worked with so many marketing teams that are so talented and so understaffed in terms of the engineering resources provided to them, because product gets them all. I can say that I'm a product manager. We take all those engineering resources and we don't share them. But marketing teams can just build really powerful stuff right now with the power of no code. And so I'm just seeing that completely transform how marketing teams work, and lots of teams across the organization are exactly like that. It's pretty exciting stuff. All right, so that's the end of my questions. Yeah. I'm going to toss it back to you, Dave.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, well, I would be for the folks that have kind of stuck around this whole time here, or potentially are listening to the recording, stick around. I would remiss if I didn't just give a little teaser of some kind of future stuff for us. We've actually haven't not publicly really talked about some stuff that is in the works here, but we are going to be launching some pretty large stuff here in a pretty, short-ish amount of time. So potentially even, 2.0 type of language around that. Obviously, Xano is a part of that, but basically we were all done with it. So we're like, well, let's get that out kind of ahead of that. But that is just one of the pieces for some very large things that we have been working for quite a while on. So it's a little bit of a teaser for you all for kind of a 2.0 launch that will be upcoming here. So thanks for sticking around for the people all that stuck around and heard this whole kind of webinar. I don't know, Prakash, if you have any kind of closing remarks, happy to you end any closing
Yeah,
remarks?
no, I'm just so happy to be here in partnership with Adalo. Really appreciate it. And also, I know you're kind of speaking vaguely around what's coming, but y'all are going to be super excited. I know the team has been really hard at work for months and months, and what feels like a year actually, creating the next thing to basically service the needs that people have been asking for, or the desire, or to service the desires that people have been asking for. And I just can't wait for you all to get it out there. So, I'm really happy to be a part of this conversation, but also very excited for Adalo and what's to come.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Again, we'll get back to you all in terms of any of those Q&As. It seems like a ton of them got answered. I don't know, maybe make some videos or get to those types of things. If we haven't got to them, we will try our best to get to all of them, at least get you all answers. We'll get this recording out as well, or maybe you already listened to this recording, but we will get this recording out. Sorry that it did start like just a hair late in the when I pressed record for it, but you actually got all of the actual good parts. So all right, thank you all so much. Thanks for building with no code and doing incredible stuff and spreading the community.